Hi everyone, hope you're doing well. Thanks very much for joining me. So in this video I just want to talk about three movies that I just happened to have watched over the last few nights, but which are all really neglected movies. So let's just get into this. The first movie I want to talk about is this one, 4 in the Morning, which is from 1965. And recognise this young lady here? It's Dame Judi Dench. And Dame Judi Dench won the BAFTA award for Most Promising Newcomer when she made this film. Wow, just think about that. Most Promising Newcomer back in 1965. But this is a really, really fascinating film. It is very little seen. And that's because, I guess, it's only available on DVD. You can't buy this on sort of boutique labels at all. And that's going to be the case with all of the films I'm going to be talking about. But yeah, this is really, really interesting. So what we have here is a kind of three different stories that are going on. We start really interestingly in this film with River Thames Police just discovering a dead body in the Thames and hauling that in and taking it off to an undertaker's. And then we cut away to two different stories. We have one which involves a young woman played by Anne Lynn, who has just finished a night shift and agrees to meet up with a young guy who wants to sort of take her out and about and really get to see if he can have an affair with her. And then we also cut between another story that involves Judi Dench here as a young mother with a teething, crying baby, and she's at home trying to look after this baby whilst her husband is really immature and drunk and playful outside with his mate and really just not paying much attention to home life. And when he does come home, he's very drunk and just wants to carry on being playful with his friend. So yeah, as we watch this film, there's lots of different things going on. With regard to the story that concerns the couple that are trying to get to know each other, that is absolutely fantastic in terms of what we get to see on the River Thames, because all of their walking around London is all along the Thames embankment, and this is in 1965, so we've got some really, really great footage of London here. They steal a motorboat at one stage, and then you see them herring along the Thames and all the different kinds of boat life that there is there. Really, really fascinating stuff. And then when it comes to the Judi Dench story, I mean, it's a little bit overwrought, I guess, in terms of how the drama is all played out. But basically what these intertwining stories are showing is this period in the late 60s when really was this kind of feeling, I guess, of female discomfort with their lives. So you've got these guys that are just, either we've got on the one side a guy who's just looking to have an affair, but he's not looking for sort of any commitment, and we've got a woman who is trying to discover whether she can sort of go with him or whether she wants something more. She's pulling away. She's been in a previous relationship before that hasn't worked out. All of it is uncomfortable for her. So there's lots of push, pull, and it all doesn't really work very well. And then equally with the Judi Dench character, like I say, her husband is really infantile and just drunk, but yet just seems to think that that's his right, that he's the sort of man of the house, and it comes with the contract, if you like, that she should be looking after the baby. So, there's this real sort of incompatibility, this real upset, this real sort of discord with life. And then we never really get to fully understand what it is about this dead woman that has been found by the police. But certainly the film ends with undertakers taking this body to an autopsy. And it's really this sort of cold and dispassionate look at her body and just preparing it for burial, washing it down and taking fingerprints, and it's all just so cold and dispassionate, but very documentary-like. It's really, really fascinating to watch. All of this film is just hugely interesting. So like I say, the actual drama itself does waver. It's perhaps a little bit unconvincing at times, but it's still really sort of gripping and riveting, and you kind of care about these characters. But yeah, definitely in terms of getting to see how London looked, and particularly all along the Thames in 1965, absolutely fascinating. Now, this one has a score by John Barry as well, so that's a really quite nice score. It's directed by Anthony Simmons. Now, he's a director who's not really particularly known for many other films, although he does have one film in the Kino Lorber collection, I think it is, that is Black Joy, which is quite a significant British film from 1977, I think it is, about black immigrant life in Brixton. And that's an interesting film, and actually features children's TV presenter Floella Benjamin in a dramatic role, quite foul-mouthed in that. So yeah, that's a interesting film to look out for, Black Joy. But yeah, 4 in the Morning is really, really interesting film. Like I say, it's very little seen. When I looked it up on IMDb and Letterboxd, there are very, very few reviews for it. And yeah, and not all of those reviews are very praiseworthy for it. A lot of people found it very bleak and unconvincing, and it definitely is a very bleak film, but totally fascinating, like I say, in terms of just getting to think about that sort of time period and how difficult it was for women to really establish, what it is they wanted, and to sort of get out of the grip of being dominated by men. So yeah, fascinating film. Really enjoyed watching this one. I thoroughly liked it. And next, we move on to 1970, and it's this film, Spring and Port Wine, and this one stars James Mason. Now, this also is a really, really fascinating film. This one is filmed in and around Bolton in Lancashire, and you get this fantastic footage initially of a textile factory that's there in Bolton, and then you get loads and loads of footage of the town itself and what life was like there. So not only on the streets of Bolton, but also on the interiors, so real home decor, what meals were like back then, and home furnishings and clothing, all of that kind of stuff. Really, really fascinating. But yeah, this is a really good cast. We've got James Mason here as the patriarch of a family. Susan George is in this. She's just 20 years old, and she plays a daughter. And then there's all these kind of recognizable people from TV. At least if you're my age, you'd recognize them, but perhaps younger people won't now. But the likes of Rodney Bewes, for instance, who went on to play in The Likely Lads, Arthur Lowe, who was in Dad's Army, Bernard Bresslaw, who was in some of the Carry On films, and a few other people like that. But yeah, this again is a really, really interesting film in that, again, it's about this sort of transitional time where people are really trying to assert themselves differently and get away from patriarchy. So James Mason plays this very strict, if you like, and domineering father. He has 4 children and a wife, and he's quite a religious man as well. So yeah, he has control over the house spending, and he very much sort of dictates, if you like, what the family should do. And it's very much a family who should sit together for dinner. They sing songs around a piano, and yeah, he has expectations of what life should be like. And then that all gets interrupted one day when Susan George, one of the youngest daughters, the other daughter actually is played by Hannah Gordon, who went on to be in Crossroads. But yeah, Susan George's character decides one mealtime that she doesn't want to eat herring. She'd rather eat a poached egg. And this disgusts her father because she is sort of, if you like, asserting herself that she won't, just eat this meal that's been prepared for her. And so we then start getting into this kind of battle of wills, if you like, that starts questioning his authority and whether he really should be starting to be more flexible in changing times. So again, there's lots going on in this film. It's really, really fascinating to watch. It's definitely fascinating in terms of a representation of the time. Like I say, getting to see the town of Bolton itself, and then all this sort of home life and how things were, a way of life which just does not exist anymore. This kind of sitting around the table and having family songs and chat and things like that. So yeah, really, really interesting film. One of the other children in this as well, I should add, is played by, I forget his name now. I will look it up and put it on the screen, but it's the young lad who actually ended up being the voice of Joe 90, if you remember that series. So yeah, all interesting stuff. But yeah, Spring and Port Wine, great movie. Really enjoyed this one. And then also in 1970, but heading over to Tennessee, and we have this film, I Walk the Line, that's directed by John Frankenheimer, the director of Seconds. Now, at this point, I want to say a big thank you to Grey Mike 1951 Media Channel, because he just posted a video on this film 2 days ago, and it was as a result of watching that, and he really does review the film excellently. But yeah, he was holding up the DVD, and I realised, oh my gosh, I have this movie in my collection and I haven't watched it yet. So yeah, thanks ever so much, Mike. But yeah, this is again it's a fascinating film, and again it seems very underseen. It's only available on this DVD at the moment. But yeah, you've got Gregory Peck here as a small town sheriff in Tennessee, and he comes across this beguiling young woman played by Tuesday Weld. Tuesday Weld was actually 27 at the time, but playing a character looking considerably younger, and he's a man of moral fibre, but all of that starts to erode and disappear as he becomes infatuated with her, and he has to sort of look aside, if you like, whilst he learns more and more things about her and her family. So yeah, this one gets very, again, quite bleak, and has a very downbeat ending, but yeah, really interesting film. The script on this one is by Alvin Sargent. Now, he's adapting it from a book, but yeah, Alvin Sargent is a great screenwriter. He had written the script for movies such as Ordinary People, and a movie I like as well called Love and Pain and the Whole Damn Thing. And he's also done a few of the Spider-Man movies as well, funnily enough. But yeah, this is a really interesting film. It does have, I mean, as you might think with the title, I Walk the Line, it's not Walk the Line, but this does have songs by Johnny Cash. There's about 5 songs by Johnny Cash in this film as well. And yeah, it's all gloriously filmed in Eastman colour. Really looks impressive, widescreen. But yeah, just a really interesting drama. And interesting character dynamics. Now, Gene Hackman was the first choice apparently for the role of the sheriff, and I kept wondering, how would it have been if he'd been in the role? How would the film have been any different? Because there's some times when I sort of think Gregory Peck is totally right for the role because of his sort of moral ways of being, and then there's other times when I'm not so sure. So yeah, it's a really kind of interesting film in that respect. But Tuesday Weld absolutely is fantastic in this, as is Estelle Parsons, who plays Gregory Peck's wife. So yeah, there we go. So those are 3 neglected movies, if you like. Had a really good time watching all of those. But yeah, it's that kind of thing where I just sort of think, it'd be great if more and more people could see these films. I get so concerned, if you like watching some of these YouTube channels where everyone is focused on the new release, boutique label releases and 4K releases, and there's so many other movies that were at risk of just falling by the wayside if we don't pay attention to them. So yeah, for me, I found these movies really interesting. I'm really glad I've seen them. I hope I've said something here that might encourage you to seek them out as well somehow. Anyway, that's enough of me waffling, but yeah, thanks very much for joining me on this. I hope I will see you again. All the best to you. Bye-bye.